Hi, my name is Nathan. You're watching Nice at Dice, and today I am doing a review of this game, Indigo. It's a game of placing tiles, building routes, and moving gemstones around those routes to try and collect them. I will show you how the game works real quickly, and then I'll come back and tell you what my thoughts are on it. So this is a game of Indigo set up for 4 players. As you can see, the centerpiece of the game is this beautiful, vibrantly colored board. And on the board at the beginning of the game, you're going to set up a few tiles. You're going to have these blue tiles, sort of lighter blue tiles along the edge of the board, and this darker blue tile right in the center of the board. And you're going to have plastic gems set up on some of these tiles. Here's an example of these gems. As you can see, they come in 3 different colors. The yellow ones get placed around the perimeter of the board. You put 5 green ones in the center and 1 blue one directly in the middle of those 5 green ones. So you have that, and as you can see, as I just showed you, there are some extra gems that are left off to the side, and those come into play throughout the game. So the object of the game is to collect these gems. Each gem is worth points at the end of the game. The blue gem is worth 3 points, the green gems are worth 2 points each, and the yellow gems are worth 1 point each. So you can take that into account as you try to collect these gems. Now, how do you collect the gems? Well, you do so by placing tiles on the board, like so. And when you place a tile, you will move a gem along a route that you are creating with that tile. So we had a green gem here, and it moves along this route once you've placed that tile. Then the next player might place a tile like so, and they are further extending the route of that green gem, moving it that way. And then another player may place a tile like this, moving the gem a little bit further. And then another player might finally place this tile like that, moving the gem off the edge of the board. When you move the gem off the edge of the board, the spaces in between these blue tiles are called gates, and each gate has 2 of these little tokens on it. These tokens correspond to the player colors, which are indicated by this color on the shield of the player. Each player gets one of these cardboard shields. And so you can see that this particular gate is controlled by the blue player and the white player. So when a gem goes off of the board through that gate, it will go to one of those 2 players. Like, let's say we'll give this one to the blue player, and then another one of that same kind of gem from off the supply off the side of the board will go to the white player. So both players are getting those points for that gem moving through that gate off of the board. At the end of your turn, you're going to draw another tile, and play is going to continue in this way. Now, there are a few rules about placing the tiles. You can place them basically anywhere you want. You can place them adjacent to another tile. You can place them somewhere that they will cause a gem to move, but that is not necessary. The only place you cannot place a tile is you cannot take a tile that has a route like this, that just goes from one edge to an adjacent edge, and place it somewhere like this, where it effectively is closing off 2 of the possible routes off of the board. You can't do that. That's the only illegal move. Other than that, you can place the tiles wherever you like. And you may have situations like this, for example, where let's say we have a tile here that made this move here, and we had a tile, that's not a good example, here we go. We have a tile like so, that moves this here, and now we could, with one tile placed like so, end up moving 2 gems in a single turn. That's possible. It is also possible, if we go back to that previous scenario, and we were to put this tile like this, effectively connecting the 2 routes that these 2 different gems are on, and in that case, both of these gems are actually removed from the game, and nobody will score them. So that's another thing that can happen. You'll continue to play until there are no gems on the board, in which case players will look at how many gems they have and the values of those gems. Whoever has the most points from gems will win. If there's a tie, then whoever has the total, the most individual gems from those that are tied will win. That's basically the rules of the game. Let's go back up top and I'll tell you what I think about it. So as you can see, the first thing that will probably stand out to most people about Indigo is that it is a very beautiful game. The colors are vibrant, the artwork is good, and the components are nice. You have those little plastic gems, which are nothing fantastic, but they're nice to look at. They look good on the board. They're bright and colorful. You have these player screens, which serve the purpose of like concealing what gems you have already collected, so players can watch each other to see what gems other players are collecting. But this adds just a little bit of mystery to what gems you have and therefore what points you have. So you're never quite sure until the very end, unless you have a really good memory and you can remember every gem that somebody got. You're never quite sure until the very end what people's scores are going to be, and that's a nice little touch. And these screens also on the back side are very useful. They have the point values of the different gems and kind of a visual summary of what you do on your turn. So having those is a nice touch. They look nice and they're functional. The tiles themselves are really nice. I like the just the visual style of them. They look nice, but they're also very distinctly clear what they are, what the routes are, how the routes connect to one another, and so forth. So everything about the game is very beautiful. It looks great. Now, gameplay-wise, I think it's best at 3 or 4 players. If you have just 2 players, it's still a fun game to play. But the thing that really shines about this game at 3 or 4 players is how those gates along the edges of the board, where the gems are going to be leaving the board, are controlled by 2 different players. So that adds an interesting element of strategy to the game, because you're not just thinking about, well, how am I going to place my tile? Which gems do I want to try and move? Where am I going to try to move them? But you're also thinking about, if I'm trying to get this gem, which I am, who do I also want to share those points with? Because if you continually move gems off of the board through the same gate, you can be continually giving yourself those points, but also another player those points. So if every time you give yourself points, you're giving another player points, then that player is going to be tied with you, except they may also move some points, move some gems through another gate that gives them points and a third player points, and therefore get the edge over you. So you kind of have to watch who seems to be getting points around the table and kind of take that into account as you plan for how you will get your points, recognizing that when you get those points, you're also giving somebody else points. So that's a really interesting aspect of the game. It makes for some very interesting strategic choices along the way. It is interesting that you only have 1 tile in your hand each turn. Some people may feel like that limits your options each turn, but I think it's actually pretty good because the tiles can be rotated and also placed basically anywhere on the board. So you really, even just with 1 tile in your hand, you still have a lot of options for what you're going to do on your turn, as far as where you're going to place that tile, the orientation of the tile, and how that's going to affect all the way that all the possible routes are coming together. There is an advanced variant where you can give each player 2 tiles at the beginning of the game, and on your turn you'll choose a tile to play, and then you'll draw another one to replace it. So you always have 2 tiles to choose between. I've never actually tried it with that particular rule, and I don't feel like it's really necessary, because there's already enough going on in the game without that. So overall, I think it's a fun game. It's only the second game I have played like this, where you're building routes by playing tiles, and those routes affecting the outcome of the game. And I feel like it is fairly strategic, and the strategy, again, a lot of it comes from in a 3 or 4 player game thinking about, who am I also giving points to every time I get points. And I think the game is also kind of unique in that sense because it's the only game that I've played where that's even a consideration, where every time you score points, you're giving points to someone else. So very interesting game, lots of interesting mechanisms. It's just beautiful to lay out and to play. It's not overly complicated. You can explain it in, 5 minutes or less. Most people are going to pick it up right away. And yeah, just overall an excellent game. So highly recommended. Indigo. Again, my name is Nathan. You're watching Nice at Dice. Thank you so much for watching, and you enjoy the rest of your day.